Of course, we've heard from Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada, Carolyn Rogers. We've heard from Bill Morneau, John Manley, the C.D. Howe Institute, the Fraser Institute, Dr. Ian Lee, amongst many others, talking about Canada's productivity crisis. So I'd just like to go over these three sections, and maybe you could quickly point out to me which sections will improve our GDP and how much GDP per capita you expect it to improve. So we'll start with section 1. Could someone tell me which sections will improve our productivity?
Anybody?
I'll start with just a broad response. Certainly, in terms of investment and competitiveness, that the investment tax credits are meant to address those and basically enhance the competitiveness of the
Thank you for that. Do you have? Could you table with the committee any analysis that your department has performed demonstrating that these ITC will improve productivity?
Well, we don't have specific numbers. I can see what we can
Okay.
We'll
pull, move on. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Part 2. How much will the implementation of Part 2 improve Canada's productivity?
I think that Part 2 is we don't have specific numbers on that. It's a measure that is, as Peter explained, it's something that's being done on a global
Nobody has
basis
actual
amongst our
numbers on
peers,
anything.
So it's really about ensuring the competitiveness of Canada's tax system and Canadian companies, and ensuring that Canada can collect its appropriate share of tax in that context.
I understand it's not. Its goal is not to increase productivity. I think
that's a fair statement.
Thank you. And Part 3. What provisions will improve our productivity and by how much?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question. For Part 3, these are measures that seek to generate additional tax revenue. For example, for tobacco and other products up to $1.6 billion. And so there are no measures, to my knowledge, that specifically were destined for productivity. That's great. Sorry.
It's fair to say that that's not the intent, and that's fine. That's fine. And so I just want to move on from there to talking a little bit about Part 2, about the global minimum tax. I'm sorry. I know that Mr. Davies asked this. I didn't quite catch this. What was the total revenue to be gained from Part 2?
Thank you for your question. The total revenue was $6.6 billion over a 3-year period.
Merci. And just to follow up on that as well, what's the estimated number of Canadian? It's just so I understand it. It's Canadian companies that'll be caught by this who are, sheltering profits in jurisdictions that have less than a 15% tax rate. So if you could correct that first, and then if you could also tell me how many Canadian companies you expect to be caught by this provision.
Thank you again for your questions. The global minimum tax has actually 2 components. One that would target low tax revenues that are reported outside of Canada, and another one that would apply to low tax revenue earned in Canada. And it would apply as well to Canadian companies, Canadian multinational companies, as foreign companies that have operation in Canada. The second component would apply to the foreign companies.
Companies will be caught by that, and how many other multinationals operating in Canada will be caught by the provision?
Yes.
If you don't have the number, you can table it with the committee as well.
We don't have the precise number because the number of companies that will be caught, but it will depend on the particular situation of every corporation. But the rules apply to groups that have more than...
I apologize, my time's just running out. The chair is going to be getting ready. I can see him. If you could just give us your estimates of the Canadian companies that will be caught by that, you can table with the committee. That's fine. And the other part that I want to ask really quickly is, so we're talking about capturing tax evasion here, which is a laudable effort. But I don't believe, or could CRA please answer how many dollars have been collected from the Panama Papers and how many convictions there's been?
if I can just answer rapidly your previous question, we estimate there are around 200 Canadian multinationals that are above this 750 million euro threshold for being in scope of the global minimum tax. And I don't know if.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Général,
I'm sorry. The person who would be in charge of these particular files is not present here today.
Would you mind just tabling that with the committee, sending us a note on that?
certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.